Hey everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live Creative Challenge. I'm Flynn, and I'm here welcoming back Demas Rusli. How are you going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good to be back.
Yeah, it's quite cool. We had Pat a moment ago for everyone that's watching the live, who's still here in the studio. Hey Pat, how's it going? And you guys are mates. You guys are friends.
We are good mates.
It's quite cool. And I think Pat was on the screen a while ago when you were going through some of your edits.
Yeah,
which is
asking
really
lots of questions. I was saying hello. Saying hello.
Which is, saying hello. Yeah, which is super, super cool. So welcome back everyone. So we're at part 2 of the Creative Challenge this month. And if you don't know what the Creative Challenge is, basically we're going to spend about 25 minutes, and Demas is going to show you a creative edit and something cool that you can do with your images, and then you can submit them to us, and then at the end of the month we're going to review everything. We're going to give some feedback, we're going to check them all out. We might have a little bit of a sneak peek at the end of today at the submissions so far, but for now we can just jump straight into the second Creative Challenge.
Let's do it,
man. All right.
So today's Creative Challenge is about mirroring your photos. So sometimes, I guess the background of this photo is that I was in the Art Gallery of New South Wales, and there was really cool, colourful artwork that it filled the whole room up, and so a lot of people were taking photos of it straight on, and I found it really hard to do this because one, there wasn't enough space for me to shoot straight on at the artwork and get the full body of my wife in there, and two, there were so many people doing the same thing that you can never get a clean frame.
It's like those photos of the people taking photos of people at the Leaning Tower of Pizza, right?
Yeah,
everyone's kind of doing this out of context, get out.
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
So I was just walking around trying to come up with, how can I shoot this so that I can get it clean, so it looks like it's there's no one there. And I was just walking around and I saw that there's this line, and so if you go right up to the artwork, or this could be a wall, or a really cool wall or a colourful wall, and I saw it that there was a clear path, and I was like, hey Lucy, can you just stand at the very end?
Right.
And where that white wall is, and then she stood there, and I was like, perfect, I can mirror this. When I get home, I'm going to try something out and mirror it.
So you kind of like walking around. I mean, a gallery is a great place to do this, but you like walking around just looking at every angle to try to scout your own shot and your own angle.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of it, a lot of people were asking if the artwork was real,
right?
And how did I manage to create a path through it and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting because I mean, in a way, it is real, but it's also not. So it's kind of like my own take on the artwork.
Yeah, which I like that in your work a lot of the time. So you'll take something, but then you kind of put your own kind of twist on it, or your own effect onto it.
Exactly. So I guess let's just begin. In the folder that you guys can download, there's two files. One's a RAW, one's a JPEG. So if you want to jump into Photoshop straight away, you can just use the JPEG. You don't need to touch the RAW. But I recommend using the RAW because then you can tweak the colors and make it look much better. Yeah,
cool.
So we're going to go into the Develop tab and just basically just color grade it as, a quick color grade. The aim of it is to try to make it bright and colorful. And again, like last week, to bring out as much color as possible because, I mean, it's a very colorful artwork. So you want to bring out all the color. So push up the exposure. Just go through it one slide at a time, pretty much.
Right.
I'm not going to spend too long on it, so I'm going to kind of speed through this part so that we could go into the more kind of nitty-gritty part of the Photoshop. I shot this on a really wide-angle lens, so I'm going to enable lens corrections to fix up all the lines so it's straighter. And then we'll fix up the straightening and stuff in Photoshop because it's much easier to get it lining up when it's mirroring.
Cool.
Push up the contrast a little bit. So I guess this is a process that I go through for 99% of my photos, just going through sliders and seeing which way to twist and turn these, which way to go.
It's a lot of trial and error, isn't it?
Yeah, so you just kind of go left and right to see what you like and what you don't like. I'm just gonna go straight into the colors. I want to push out the colors a little more, so I'm gonna increase the saturation of most of the colors. Yellow, probably not so much, because there's already a lot of it there. Greens, blues, yeah, just basically increasing the saturation so that all your colors pop out a little bit more. And then you play around with the hue it's kind of like just twisting, like the orange can become red or yellow, and so on and so forth. I kind of like my yellows a little bit more orange. My greens pop out a little bit more to the aqua side. Blues, I always like to go towards the aqua side to just give it a little bit more, a lighter touch to it. And purples, yeah, let's keep going a little bit more. I like that, increasing the orange a little bit, increasing the yellow a little bit. Yeah, and then brightening it up as well using the luminance. Again, the aim of it is to bring out all the colors so that, you know, it really pops out of the screen. And that's sort of the style of photos, the style of editing I like to do as well.
Yeah, nice.
In terms of split toning, maybe just a little bit. Give it a little bit more blue. Like my photos a little bit more cooler in tone. And then shadows, probably don't really need it for this one. Sharpen the image a little bit more. And then that's it. That's what I usually do.
Right.
In Lightroom, pretty much. Tweak that a little bit more, and then, all right, I think we can jump into Photoshop.
Perfect.
So you go right-click, edit in Adobe Photoshop, and then it's just gonna open.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so everyone has that original raw photo that they can download.
They do.
And play around with it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. What advice would you have for someone that's never used Lightroom before?
To experiment with every single slider and see what it does.
Yeah.
And see what works for your own taste. I mean, and then like the previous live stream
right.
with Pat just then, you gotta, the more you do it, the more you know what you like and don't like.
Yeah.
So like if you like your image is brighter or darker, like you just have to practice and practice and just, yeah, I guess the more you do it, the more you'll know what you want.
Perfect. Good advice. I like it.
In Photoshop, so we're gonna use these guidelines. So there's rulers on the top and the side of Photoshop. If you don't have them, you can go Control R, and Control R, it brings up the rulers. I'm gonna make that into not a background layer, and I'm gonna just drag a guideline so that it's in the center. Right, so right now that's the center, and my subject's not in the center. And the aim of this, because it's a mirror, you want to have everything centered.
Are you doing that by eye, or did that snap?
That snaps.
That snaps.
It always snaps to the center. And also because it's going to be mirrored, you want your horizontals to be horizontal too. So you're going to drag some. See how that like ceiling line isn't straight? So you want to straighten all those up. You can do this in Lightroom, but I think for this sort of thing, I prefer to do it in Photoshop because, yeah, just in case the mirroring doesn't work, you don't have to go back and forth.
And did you do a lens correction in?
I did.
You did? Okay, cool.
So Control T, which is free transform, and you're going to use the distort. And we're going to just like move it up and down until they're all straight. And you can drag more guidelines and keep going until, if you drag guideline, it stops the free transform. But you can just keep going. Zoom in a bit. So by just fixing that up, she moved to the center. And it's okay that, you know, there's gaps on the side because one, you're going to crop it, and two, it's going to get filled in by the mirror.
Right.
So it's okay.
Oh, so everything on the left, it kind of doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're just focusing on the right. So you're going to try to line up, see the ceiling line here, try to make that straight, That's pretty straight. I think just one more. This wall on the here, just trying to make that straight now. So something like that. Getting close. And you can scale it back out a little bit because she's kind of gone a bit too skinny. Yeah, something like that. I think that works. So yeah, just have a play in like correcting the lines of the image, correcting the horizontals and the verticals.
Before I watched you doing this, I would have assumed you had to kind of like hold down shift and keep things like fairly straight, but you're kind of just doing it by eye, aren't you? Like
yeah, I mean, using the guidelines to you know, basically guide you to the straight lines. Yeah. I mean, another general rule is like if you have two lines that are straight, then the whole image is straight. So like two verticals or two horizontals. If those two are straight in your photo, there's nothing else that's going to be. So
it needs to line up with an axis of some kind.
Yes.
And then your mind is like, okay, that's straight.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. So that's getting pretty close. Okay. So then you just exit out of it. I'm going to clear the guides because there's a bit too many. I'm going to keep the center one. So drag another new one. And that's the center. And so she's in the center now. Maybe pull it out a little bit more. Where is it? Yeah. So now she's in the center. We can crop first, just to see what's going to be the final outcome. And because it's going to go Instagram, I'm going to crop it 4:5. And then I kind of want it to be probably just in a little bit like this, so that you don't get that top ceiling line. Something like that, I think could work. So yeah, she's in the center, and then now it's time to mirror it.
Nice.
So to mirror, because there's already a guideline in the middle, you just drag a box from the top right corner, and it snaps to that center line. And then you're gonna go layer via copy, and then free transform. And so I'm always right clicking here and then flip horizontal. So when you flip horizontal, you get this flip, and then you're just gonna hold control and move it, and control and shift to move it to the other side.
You're making this look really easy.
It is really easy. And anyone can do it. So yeah, so now you got this other side, but obviously the person looks super weird.
Right.
Okay. So we're gonna try to fix that. And the way to fix that is by a layer mask. And so you turn off the first top layer, and then what you can do is you can draw a mask. So using the polygonal lasso tool, you're gonna draw a mask around Lucy. I mean, this doesn't have to be super perfect because she's so tiny, and you're also going to be able to blur the edges as well later on. So just like that. And the other side, it's okay because you just want to get rid of one side.
I like it. Finding efficiencies wherever possible.
And then next, you're gonna obviously you selected that, and you're just gonna click layer mask. And then because it's already a selection. It
looks like a pirate there.
It does the opposite. Yes,
hook leg.
So we're gonna invert the layer mask. So because with the selection, when you click layer mask, it automatically makes a layer mask of that selection, but it's always the opposite, so you just have to invert it. Yeah, yep. So from black to white, white to black. So it's not looking 100% yet because some of the hair and stuff is still coming out from the sides. So we can now pretty much grab this. You can grab the layer mask, magic wand it because that's the layer mask. Hold on 1 second. There's a layer mask. Wait.
So you clicked into the layer mask then?
I did, but let me just go back, and I just want to try find that selection again that I did before the layer mask. This selection.
Right.
maybe what we can do first is fill in the gaps. So you can see it's like a bit weird at the moment. Why is this? What's happening? All right, I'm gonna fill in the gaps and get rid of that half of the face.
Right.
So to fill in the gaps, we're gonna invert selection, and we're gonna use the clone stamp tool, which is this one, and paint it. So select an area that's what you want, and then we're gonna paint it in there. And because it's a layer mask, it's already selected. It's okay. Like as in, it won't affect. It won't affect the inside of
anything
that.
in that selection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there's a bit left here down the bottom on the legs.
And you're just using Alt to continually pick wall that's close to it?
Yes.
So you Alt and click?
Alt and click, and then release the Alt, and then you can paint. And then, so for this line here, so you go Alt and click, and then you just paint that in, and then and so on and so forth. This shadow shouldn't be there because that's the mirror. So Alt and click, and you can just like keep going in bit by bit, and then getting rid of that. Yep, like that.
Cool.
And then now you can use your layer mask, and she comes back, and she's okay.
There she is, all put together.
Yep.
Perfect.
I'm gonna use the blur tool to kind of just blur the layer mask a little bit, so that it's not as sharp around the edges. So there we go. You can see the shadow is still a bit off. So what we can do there.
So the reflection is the original. Oh, actually, it's not even, is it? Because you flipped it.
One, yep.
It's a
So
flipped.
we're gonna paint a thin layer of black so that it rubs out the reflection. So to do that, we're gonna just grab the black paintbrush, make sure your hardness is set to 0, maybe a smaller size brush, and we're just gonna paint out the reflection. And you can keep going because, you know, so the tile pattern's less 50-50.
Right.
You can just keep going down the track, all the way down, painting it bit by bit, just to create a more believable transition. And you can go all the way down here, painting it bit by bit. Probably not there. That line's okay. Yeah.
So you didn't select that line because it might not have quite lined up.
Yeah, I mean, in the line, like as in the whole scheme of the picture, the line is there and it's okay because it joins.
Right.
And there we go. So that's basically the mirror of it. So now, to make it like less mirrory, I tried to change something. So I changed the color of this one. It's quite a simple step to change. And literally what you're going to do is grab the side that you mirrored, and then you go to image, and you go to adjustments, and then hue saturation. Sorry, I was going to turn this into, why is it not giving me hue saturation? Okay, so I'm gonna go here instead. Hue saturation. On this, it's basically creating and I want to clip it, so it only affects this layer.
Right.
And then you're gonna push the hue. Hopefully this works. Where is it not working? Something's happening. Bit of technical difficulties today. Why is it not working today? So I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna go convert, and I'm gonna. What's happening to my computer? Okay.
It's taking off.
Okay. Okay, so now hue saturation should work, hopefully. Why is it not working? Okay, maybe I need to select something. There we go. Okay.
Right.
So you're gonna push this hue, and you're just gonna push it to all the way to the other side. So now it's blue. But because see the hard edges there, we're gonna do the same thing and rub out using the layer mask. Rub out the hard edges.
Right.
with paintbrush, and like once it goes into the color zone, it's okay. Like it's not too bad.
Yeah, you just don't want that jarring thing straight down the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And here as well. And then one more thing you could do is you could play around with the levels as well, to make the whites kind of more white and to match it up with both sides. Yeah, and then, I mean, again, it's up to you to spend however long you want to, you know, if you want to, obviously, a cleaner edit, you can spend much longer on it. But I'm just going to show you the basic steps of how to create this sort of edit.
Super cool.
I can basically paint that out. So yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Getting close.
I really like how this can, like, going through this process and knowing that you can do this can inform your photography. Like, so you could be out somewhere and just think, well, actually, like almost like holding a hand up and then looking at something and going, actually, if I could do this technique and actually get like a really interesting shot.
Exactly. I mean, I've done it a couple of times. If you see in my Instagram feed, there's stuff that's mirrored here and there. And this is the technique that I use to get that mirror effect.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, so this is the before, and then once you mirrored it and changed the color, and that's the after.
That's awesome. That's so great.
Yeah, then final steps would be just to hit save and then it jumps back into Lightroom automatically, which is there, and then you can tweak more colors and so on and so forth.
This is tweaking for the whole image, so
it kind of helps with, you know. So there's some stuff that you can do, like desaturating some of the blues so that like it looks nicer on the ground and stuff like that. But yeah,
awesome.
That's about it.
That's so great.
Thank you so much.
This is super cool. Thanks so much. So can we bring up how people can submit?
Sure.
So basically, just to reiterate, if you're just joining us or coming halfway through or watching the video on demand, so this is the Creative Challenge, this is part 2. So you can download those files. If you're on Adobe APAC Live right now, it says download template just above us, so you can do that right there. If you're at YouTube, it's down below. And there'll be a link to download the assets during this month. And you can do last week if you hadn't had a chance to do that. You can do this week, and there'll be one more next week as well. So you can check that out. There's 2 ways that you can submit. So you can submit here. There are links in both those same places to submit, and it'll look something like this. Punch your details in, and then you can upload your image. So you can people can use the images that you've supplied.
Yes.
Or they could also use their own photography.
Yep.
Which is super. It's like bonus points, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're time poor, definitely like jump in, use Demas's assets, and you can quickly play around. And then please do submit it. We'd love to see all those submissions. So you can use the link that we provided, or you can use the hashtag Adobe Live, and we will go through and have a look at some of the submissions. In fact, we could probably have a look at some of last week's submissions.
Yeah. So like Flynn said, there's 2 ways to enter. On Instagram, if you use the hashtag Adobe Live, make sure you tag me as well in the caption so that I could actually see it and comment on it, and we can have a chat, that kind of stuff. There's already some pretty good entries and so far. So in the Wii box, in the actual submission form, these are the entries so far from last week's challenge.
Yeah, very cool.
There's some super creative ones, like, you know, using that same technique to push a building to the side. And you know, and then this rotation of the guys.
It's like a breakdancer or something.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And using some of my photo that I edited last week as well. So that's looking really good. We want to try to fill it in a lot more.
Yeah.
And
keep
then
submitting, guys.
Also on the hashtag, there's already quite a lot as well. Like this one here where this person's used the same technique to motion blur upwards, which is really cool. And yeah, there's one here, this bus one here. There's quite a lot already, which is really awesome to see.
Yeah, it's really great to see.
And this Iron Man one, which is really cool.
Right.
Yeah, Marvel-inspired motion blur edit.
That's timely.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool, very cool. So So yeah, keep submitting. You can submit for any of them. So if you missed last week, that's fine. You got a little bit of time to submit that one. We'd love to see if anyone does all three.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
That would be super cool. So definitely tag Demas. We can share a link to Demas's profile. If you're not already following him, let's be honest, you probably are. And yeah, use the hashtag Adobe Live, tag Demas, and we'll be back next week with part 3 and one more final creative challenge. And then right at the very end of the month, we're going to sit down, we're going to review some of these and check them out.
Yeah, we're going to look at these ones on the screen more in detail.
Yeah, which will be great. So thank you, Demas.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See you guys next week too.